All right. I call this Board of Health meeting to start at 5:30. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, just so everyone knows, this meeting is being recorded. All right, so where are we going to start?
We're going to start with minutes.
All right, so we have minutes. You want to take over?
I'll take over, but you have a lot of minutes here.
All right, go.
So the first thing is the minutes of January 23rd, 2024.
Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from January 23rd, 2024. Second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Next is the minutes for February 8th, 2024.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from February 8th, 2024. Motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Okay. Next.
We don't have any meeting mail. Under new business is the regional health agreement. You'll find that after your tab 1. So I did contact Connor at SMR CCCP, and he sent me over the municipal agreement. It does expire in July, I think. There will be a meeting March 5th of all of the regional towns that are involved in this. This is really just the framework for the agreement. It doesn't actually give us the information on what was voted and who took what responsibilities, but Webster is the host community, as you folks know. So at the March 5th meeting, I'll ask Connor for the information on the nurse and the other things, because we definitely want to keep those nursing services going. That's a big help for us.
Mm-hmm.
Through the chair. Could we request for the nurse to attend our meeting, please?
Yeah, you want to have
Yeah.
some
Absolutely.
March meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
Do we want the
That's a good idea.
She's
epidemiologist?
She's
No.
from New York.
Oh,
She attended by phone last
We could do a
time,
Zoom.
But I'd like to just at least the
Yeah.
nurse to start with, so that we can see what's been going on and be sure that we get updates and get the correct information. Please.
sure.
Well, and that we get notified when there is a confirmed foodborne illness in town, and we don't wait till the end of the fiscal year to find out in the annual report.
When we used to have Harrington, if I may, we used to get a monthly report. And that's kind of what I would like from her. I'd like to have before each meeting is, it would give us no names or anything, but this many Lyme, this many strep, this, whatever
Right,
she
right.
investigated. And it would just be nice so that we have an idea of what's going on again back in the community. So
Yeah, that's a good idea.
it's just a monthly, so that at our meetings,
Yep.
we can say, oh, look, da-da-da-da-da-da, this is what's going on. Why did we have a surge in Lyme disease or something, so that we can do the necessary things that we need to do for the area and the public. So, thank you.
Okay. The next thing on the next tab is a draft of a local housing regulation that I'm proposing that the Board of Health adopt. And looking at the housing complaints that are going on in town, we have a problem with landlords that don't want to take care of their property, people that are being kind of victimized by being left out in the cold. We have one family in town that actually hasn't had heat since like December 15th.
Ooh.
The landlord, after probably 3 weeks, did agree to pay for them to stay in a hotel. I verified that he called the hotel and made arrangements for them to stay in a hotel. Their furnace, first the oil tank broke, a new oil tank was put in, but the landlord told them that the 2 tenants had to split the oil tank and they had to pay for the oil, and that's illegal. You can't have one oil tank and one heater for 2 apartments and tell them to just split the bill. So I had to speak with them about that. and he eventually filled the tank. And 2 weeks ago on Saturday, the fire department called that they were there, that there was another oil spill, this time from the oil burner. So I met the fire department there. There was heating oil all over the floor. The oil burner had oil on it. I thought it was kind of odd that there was oil on the outside of the oil burner, but talked to the landlord. He said his maintenance guy was on the way. I happened to have his phone number from the oil tank replacement, so I called the maintenance guy, and he said he wasn't on his way and he wasn't coming up. He was basically done working there. He was from Somerville. This was a long drive for him. So the residents didn't go live in the hotel after he set them up. And I talked to them on Sunday. I had been in town on Saturday and Sunday for 2 other things. I spoke to them on Sunday. They were staying at their house. I called the landlord today. I asked him, what's going on here? Because it's been, actually since I got hired, that they've had no heat. And he said that it's been hard to find a service person, but he did, and that they wanted $14,000 to replace the boiler. Well, that's actually not a bad price to replace a boiler. He's not gonna find one for $500. But then I mentioned to him that if he's not gonna pay for the heat, then he needs to put in a separate oil tank and 2 furnaces, because it's not gonna work telling the residents they have to chip in and split the bill. So then he said he wanted to put in gas, and he's just going on and on and on, and he is trying to evict them. He bought the house recently. The rent went up by $900 a month the day he bought the house. So I think he wanted somebody else to live there, is the story I'm getting from the people that live there now. So I did talk to them today. I told them I'd spoken to the landlord. He's in no hurry, and the option we have is to condemn the house and to make them go live in a motel at his expense. But the mother lives on the 2nd floor, the daughter lives on the 1st floor. She has 2 small kids in the Webster school system. The hotel where he made arrangements is in Sturbridge. So I said, we can make you move out, or you can keep living with your electric heaters, and it's your decision if you want to tough it out. And they've decided that they want to tough it out. So it's up to you folks, but I'd hate to displace a couple of kids that go to school in Webster. I don't know which is worse, living in a house that's cold, or living in a motel in Sturbridge and maybe not getting a ride to school every day. So my recommendation is to let them tough it out and see what happens with the oil burner. I am gonna write an order, and I'm gonna order him to pay the electric bill, because they've been using electric heaters all winter. I don't know that that's enforceable, but if you do the math, it's cheaper than $300 a day for a hotel room for the 2 families. And I think that he should be agreeable to that, and I will talk to him tomorrow based on what you folks decide you want to do. But it's my recommendation that they stay.
Warm enough?
Yeah. It's warm enough. They're not cold. They have pets. I told them they could come back from the hotel and feed their pets and do those things, but they just don't want to leave.
They at least, in my opinion, at least the landlord did make a good faith effort to attempt to put them in a hotel.
Right.
And so if they're refusing that and they want to stay, then I think that's their choice.
Yeah.
They, I understand the,
Yeah. And if we condemn the house and they're gone, he doesn't have to let them back in. So we've made them, permanently homeless by putting them in the hotel. And that's part of the reason for this local housing regulation, and that's the segue into it. So, as I,
if I may, one more question
Sure.
about so you said they're using electric heaters and everything.
Yeah.
They're plugging directly into walls, not into a
extension cords.
cord
no,
or,
yeah.
or a power strip or anything, right?
These aren't big apartments,
No,
they're small.
I'm just making sure,
Yep.
that they're doing it the proper way at
Yep.
least. Thank you.
And the fire department was there both times I've been there, and they were okay with the situation at hand, so.
do you think?
I make a motion to allow them to stay, if that's their choice, to stay in the apartment with the electric heat.
As long as they're warm. Okay?
Second motion, yeah.
Okay, have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Pass.
Okay, so
You
looking
think?
at the housing complaints that I've seen in town,
Yeah,
and talking to, actually the health director in New Bedford, who I took my soil evaluators class with. They have 11 inspectors in New Bedford, they have a lot of housing complaints, and they do have a local housing regulation. And he told me that 75% of the people that have problems with their apartments, no heat and things, will not report it. Because the day after someone reports the property owner to the Board of Health, they either get an increase in their rent or they get a 10-day notice to quit. That's the, the retaliation that comes there. We require restaurants to have a permit to operate. We require restaurants to be inspected 2 times a year, minimum. And we're letting people move into substandard housing that hasn't been inspected, no reason for it to be inspected. So I drafted a local regulation that would require anyone that non-owner occupied, whether it's a house or 2 units or 4 units or 6 units, they would register with the Board of Health, they would apply for a permit, it would be $100 for the permit. There would be a pre-occupancy inspection, and then there'd be 2 inspections during the year. One before the heating season, and one before the summer to make sure that there's adequate screens and front doors, all these things that people run into a problem and they call the Board of Health to complain and they wind up getting evicted. And that's a shame that you can't call and complain about living in something substandard. In the housing code, it does say that if you report your landlord to the Board of Health, that he can't raise your rent or evict you for 6 months, it would be considered retaliation, and that they would have to prove that it's not retaliatory in nature. In here, I made it 8 months just to make it a little stricter and just to make people not afraid to report these problems. Because when we do this, we're going out on inspections, we're not getting paid anything for doing these inspections, and the taxpayers are subsidizing the landlord's complaints. So if there was a $100 fee for complaints and inspections and all of this, that could go into a revolving account, and it wouldn't come from taxation. And I think that that's only fair. There's not a lot to this. It's pretty simple. It would become effective immediately upon passage. Existing occupied rental units would have until June 15th of 2024 to obtain a rental permit. But any newly occupied rental units, as of the date this passes, would be required to obtain a permit.
Yeah, I was thinking. Question.
2 questions. So it would be renewable every year?
Every year, just like restaurants.
Would it be renewable at the first of the year, or would you do it as of July, just to offset, so that we didn't have all the renewals at one time?
We'd stagger that away from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question is, how would we get the information out to all of the properties?
Through the assessor's office, I imagine.
Would we do a mailing? Would we, find out,
I would get a printout from the assessor, and we would send them certified letters.
okay, thank you.
With a copy of the regulation.
Okay,
Saying
perfect.
it's effective now. But one change I would propose after being there Saturday and Sunday is that if a new housing complaint comes in, that triggers the permit. We've had to go out, you're gonna apply for a permit, you're gonna register, the inspection takes place, and you're in the system on day 1.
You said something in the beginning when we were talking about 10 days? Is that the,
They can-
they have to leave in 10 days?
If you don't have a lease, a landlord can serve a 10-day notice to quit.
Oh, got it, okay.
And in some of these cases, the tenants may actually be vandalizing the houses to stay. So I've had a landlord tell me that as soon as he fixes something, an hour later, something else is broken at the house. And I've come to that same conclusion myself on an inspection. And we're waiting for a plumber to go and confirm something, and we may be able to confirm that, but It protects the landlord and it protects the tenant at the same time, because the landlord had his apartment inspected by the Board of Health before it got occupied. We have pictures, we have a report, it's all there. And if 4 days later, the kitchen cabinet's ripped off and on the floor, and they're complaining, well, that wasn't by accident.
And if I can, sorry. And this will also, when you do the twice-a-year inspections, you'll make sure that, like, the landlord's telephone number's posted and all that, the information that, all the things that should be done that in the past, when complaints have come in, you see aren't being done.
So none of that is happening.
Right.
So, under the code, they have to post their contact information in common space, if there's more than one unit, inside and outside. So that if I drive up, I can identify who the property owner is, what his phone number is, and how to contact him, right from the front. That doesn't exist. Common lighting. I'm going in to look at a 4-unit house just last week. All the light bulbs in the common hallway are broken off in the light sockets. There's no lights. The front door to the 4 units has no lock. Doesn't lock. There was never a lock on it. So someone could just go in that house and wait at the top of the stairs for someone to come home. Just a dangerous situation. The sidewalks aren't shoveled, the stairs aren't shoveled, the driveways aren't cleared. If they're multi-unit, it's on the landlord. Same with the trash. If it's a multi-unit, it's on the landlord. And those are the things that aren't happening the most. And when the tenant complains about it, they're no good, you gotta go.
And we would also be checking for electrical connections.
Yeah.
To be sure that the common area is on 1 meter, unless they pay it all.
And that's another complaint going on.
Right.
That when they turned off their main switch on their circuit breaker panel, it turned off the landlord's lights in his brother's apartment on the 3rd floor. So there's a lot going on.
Illegal apartments.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
So, even Southern Mass Regional is interested in seeing this when we pass it, because other than New Bedford and Worcester, there aren't any other local housing regulations.
So I'm just gonna,
Go ahead, Jen.
so you said that the code is 6 months, and you put it in for 8 months.
Yep, and it could be 6, but the local regulation should always be a little tighter than the state regulation. I just thought it was a very good deterrent for the landlord to just fix the apartment, knowing that there's a local regulation that says you can't harass your tenant for 8 months. And we'll end up with a much better housing stock once the tenants know that they can make a complaint and they're protected. But they also have to keep their houses clean. That's the other side of the code. So this cuts both ways.
And it protects landlords from, sorry, I keep just jumping in, protects landlords from the tenants, like you said, destroying property.
Yes.
Because you'll know what it was like pre-inspection.
There are professional tenants out there that specialize in not getting evicted, sometimes up to 2 to 3 years. And the landlord winds up actually paying them to move. So,
I like it.
so do you want to bring it forward for the next meeting and we'll advertise it? It doesn't have to be advertised, but it wouldn't hurt to advertise it.
I think so.
Have a public hearing and approve it at the public hearing.
My only concern is, and I understand why you say 8 months, is just that I always tend to just go with what the state has and not make it any stricter than what the state has.
Let's go with the
Because
6.
that way, it just covers us, where we're saying, listen, look, this is what the state says we can do, and this is what we're doing. Be
Yeah.
thankful we didn't, you know,
Do 8.
right.
Mhm.
I mean, but that's just
Wanna
my
change
opinion,
that?
it's up for discussion through everybody. That's just me,
I think that's fair.
you know, I don't,
I have no problem. I actually talked to a tenant today and mentioned this to her, and she said, oh, I thought it was 6 months. So they're all very well versed in, what their rights are, and it becomes a battle of the minds. The tenant gets belligerent that the landlord won't fix something, and the small things turn into big things. And this would.
Yeah, I agree with the 6, so we can say that we're following the guidance.
and so you'll advertise it, and we'll do it for the next meeting?
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Are we voting on it?
Not till,
Not till the next meeting?
yeah,
not
once they
till next
advertise it,
meeting.
we'll have a public hearing for it.
Title V inspections. So when I took the Title V training course, there was an engineer that was the instructor for NIWI pick. And his biggest advice to all of the future Title V inspectors was, if you have any doubt about what you're looking at, just check the box that says local approval needed, and push all of the responsibility onto the Board of Health. Now, the Board of Health wasn't there when the Title V inspection was done. And in the last couple of weeks, I've seen a couple of Title V inspections come over for me to sign off on. And I find it odd that I'm signing off on a Title V inspection that I wasn't there. And I was kind of shocked when I started doing Title V inspections on the South Coast to find out that all it really means is that the system passed that day. It doesn't mean that it's 100%, it doesn't mean it's 70%, it just means it passed that day. And that's a big risk to people buying a house and maybe having to spend $40,000 on a septic system 6 months after they buy it. In the South Coast, we required that the Board of Health witness Title V inspections, just like soil evaluations. So that the health inspector is there while the Title V inspector is doing his work. You see him open up all the covers, you see him check everything, you go through the house, you look for the garbage disposal, you look for the sump pumps, all those things, the apartments and the garages. And you're there when he fills out his report, and your name goes on his report, and that's that. And that's another inspection fee. It would be a $250 fee to go witness a Title V. You will spend a couple of hours there, overseeing that. But if there's any dispute between the Title V inspector and the homeowner, the approving authority is standing there on the ground, and it's resolved right then and there on the spot. I'm really not comfortable signing off on somebody's inspection, and I wasn't there. I don't even know why we would sign off on it, but it's been a tradition, I guess, here in Dudley, so I'm gonna bring that forward for the next meeting, if you
Okay.
folks wanna go there. And I would be asking that goes into a revolving account, into our training revolving account, those funds.
And, sorry, again, no, I just want to make sure, so a Title V inspection is done, if you think your septic is failing, if there's a sale of a house, it's,
In addition,
Yeah.
And
low
changes,
flow.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with bringing it to the next meeting.
Absolutely.
And then, on your next tab is a proposed noisome trade regulation.
Yeah, so can we back
Sorry,
up for
I
one
was like,
second?
what does the
For the-
advertise mean?
So for the next meeting for the Title V, will we advertise that as well?
Yes.
Just to put
Okay.
out there? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So, and then I'm gonna throw something. So what happens if we pass this, right?
Yep.
And somebody does a Title V inspection and says, oh, well, we didn't know about that.
Well, they have to come to the Board of Health to do a Title V inspection. They have to come and look at your records. They have to do a file review.
You would
So when
hope.
they come
You would hope, right? They do.
I wouldn't sign off on one that they didn't.
Okay. So, and will we also,
Well, let me ask, are they coming in and doing a file review to do Title V inspection?
most do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know some of them are very good about it. So we'll send out notices, if this were to pass in the future,
Yep.
we would send out notices to all the ones that we're aware of.
Yeah, and we have a good handle on who does the Title Vs in town.
Okay, perfect. No, I just wanted
And
to.
that word spreads pretty quickly through the
I think
universe.
so.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Thank you,
And
sorry.
when I took the Title V class, I raised that issue at the class, and I said, I go out on inspections and I witness Title V, and the trainer said, oh, that's unusual, there's not a lot of towns that witness Title V inspections. So I called down and asked my former boss and said, what was the reason behind it? And he said, we have some things going on in town, and we wanted to nip it in the bud and protect the homeowners, and you need to be there. So it's more protective for us. We're trying to protect our groundwater. very protective of somebody buying a house, or even selling a house. They could get sued if the Title V gets around. So, all right,
Yeah, thank you.
okay.
Sorry.
So, the noisome trade regulation, we got permission to talk to town council. This has gone to town council for review. This is something that I work on the South Coast as well. And currently, we have no Class 3 scrap licenses, junkyards, anything of that sort in town. And looking at what the complaints were from Leonard Avenue, and looking at some other things around town, the Board of Health needs to step up and regulate junkyards in town. And by passing a noisome trade and designating scrapyards and junkyards and such as a noisome trade, you would have to file an application with the Board of Health. You would come before the Board of Health, show the plans for where you're gonna do these things. There's a lot of EPA and DEP regulations for scrapyards and junkyards. I was the stormwater agent and MS4 agent and licensed EPA inspector on the South Coast. And I was involved in permitting a junkyard for the chairman of the planning board's son, and it got very political. So by passing a regulation that set guidelines to open a scrapyard in town. And you have to go fit in the federal regulations, the DEP regulations. We issue a permit, we inspect it, we approve it. This does not affect anybody right now, because we don't have any professional junkyards in town. There was one license a long time ago, and that person passed away, and it doesn't even show up in the zoning as an allowed use. But I can't find in the zoning where it says that anything not listed is not an allowed use. And that's what most towns cover their butt with that statement. Nelson thinks it's there. He was gonna take a look, but Jeff Blake he's in Denver skiing. He'll be back from school vacation next week, and this will be ready for our next meeting
Okay.
as well. And that brings us to 2 Leonard Street. So, on February 8th, back up a couple of days earlier, 2 residents came to the counter at the Board of Health office, extremely irate about the situation at 2 Leonard. I spoke to them, I went and looked at it. It falls right into the category of a nuisance. Under Chapter 111, Section 122. And the letter is on the next tab. So I did send a cease and desist letter. Said it was a nuisance. They're disputing that. They feel that the property is zoned industrial, and that they have the right to tow cars back there and store unregistered cars and junk cars and tires and all these other things on the property. And it is zoned industrial, but the whole neighborhood is residential houses. The zoning was changed after all the houses were built. So the houses have become a non-conforming pre-existing use. But if you're gonna operate a business in an industrial zone, you can't just put your stuff everywhere and not have a plan and park all your vehicles in the street and leave junks on the vehicles in the street. It's a nuisance. If this was a professional business in an industrial zone, there'd be a paved area for the trucks to park. They'd be screened from the public. There'd be all of those things that are required. Talking to town council, showing town council the pictures, he feels that he could go to court tomorrow and get an injunction and have that ended. I did go meet with the property owner, and
Just a second. Let him finish.
I did go meet with the property owner, and Mr. Essex, the fellow that just spoke. And their feeling is that they can do whatever they want to do there because it's zoned industrial. And that the police told them they can park on the road because it's a public way and the trucks are registered in this room, but we're the Board of Health. And we look into nuisances and we eliminate nuisances. And this is a nuisance, so, so this is 2 Leonard Street, right here. And this is on April 11th of 2023. So there's a pile of junk tires in the backyard. There's junk vehicles here. And then when you go to 2024, there it is. When you go to 2024, after I got the complaint, I went out, and because they don't have a suitable place to park vehicles and park trucks, they've run the lawn over and turned it into a mud hole, and that's one of the trucks parked in the street. Because there was no room left on the left side, they decided to drive their trucks up onto the lawn on the right side of the lawn, and park there and rip the grass up there. Where the pavement's gone, in the first photo, you can see the dirt's tracking out into the street. This is scrap piled up next to the house, junk car in a trailer, there's a junk car behind it, all the tires are in bad, and these are 2024 pictures, these are from on the ground, from me being there. Here's a junk truck in the back of another car in the driveway, full of trash, full of scrap, just that's just some of the mud that's tracking out. That's a better shot of what's happening to the street where they park trucks and vehicles and pull out. There's a storm drain there, and you can see my cursor. These are liquid stains, oils, fluids that have leaked out of some cars. They're headed for the storm drain as well. You can see some snow plows parked up the street. I got disconnected. There we go. So just parking vehicles in here is just tracking a tremendous amount of mud into the street. The dirt stays there. After I served the cease and desist order, somebody did sweep the street up a little bit and clean it up. But too little, too late after 2 years of this going on for the neighbors. The connection's bad. Behind that white truck and the trailer is a whole bunch of sheet metal parts off of various automobiles. Some more fluid leaking out of the driveway. There's 3 trucks parked. This thing's it's finicky. On the back of the red ramp truck, there's scrap. You can see an old snow blower and other stuff there. And this is what the neighbors are having to look at on their street. There's a picture of what's on the back of the ramp truck. So there's an old gas tank, there's some sheet metal, some type of a snow blower attachment, some fenders, other stuff. And these trucks sit there every day. They're not just there for 5 minutes. And the first abutter that came in said the trucks sit out there and idle for 4 hours at a time. And it shakes his house. Come on. One more time. I have a different picture up, that's what Amanda warned me this was gonna be slow. I did get permission to go in another neighbor's backyard. So there's a better shot of the back of the truck. And here's a shot from the abutter's backyard. I didn't want to trespass and go in these folks' backyard. And you know, we're not just talking a small collection here. There's a lot of stuff there. And these are 2024 pictures. So, it's a nuisance. Anything that annoys the neighbors causes nuisance conditions. It really doesn't matter that this is zoned industrial. You can have anything that meets zoning, but you have to do it properly. It has to be properly laid out. And we have our own health regulations. And if you want me to, I don't know if you had time to read the cease and desist order, but you have it right there on
Yeah.
your. So I would be asking that you authorize, well, first I would tell you that I did meet with them there. And we had a discussion, and they said, look, you know, you're trying to prevent me from feeding my kids, you're trying to do all these things. This is zoned industrial, we can do it. We talked to the police, we talked to the building inspector, and explained that we're the Board of Health, and we have our own regulations, and we enforce them. And at that point, I said, we're gonna have to agree to disagree. And I left. So, I would ask that the board vote to have Jeff Blake go get the injunction. And Jeff can ask for attorney's fees when he goes for the injunction. Jeff can decide what he wants to ask for a penalty for each day that this has existed. They had 7 days to appeal the cease and desist order. They didn't do that. And I don't think that I want to play a game of cat and mouse on how many cars there gets, you know, property each given day. If they stop bringing cars there and found a place to park the trucks that they don't drive somewhere in town, they could reduce that nuisance, but they don't seem to be willing to do that. But they are here.
You're welcome to come up. Just make sure you identify yourself, okay? So everyone at home.
Just full name and.
Mm-hmm.
Alright,
Yeah, and
so-
your address.
Alright, I'm Adam Essex with 2 Leonard Ave. The vehicle, like that truck in particular, it's an ongoing project. It's not a junk vehicle. I do, you know, Patrick has brought it to my attention about Facebook and seeing that I buy junk vehicles. I do buy junk cars. There's no denying that. That's what, you know, we've run a towing and transport company that also buys junk cars. The junk cars come on the truck when they're bought and go to a local scrapyard, whether it's Worcester or Connecticut or wherever. The truck on the trailer is one of my, everybody might not think and like it, but it's one of my show vehicles for the summer. It's a summer vehicle. It goes from point A to point B. So, along with my other vehicles, my girlfriend's Purple Ranger, so the 3 work vehicles, and Dudley PD has been there multiple times because the same neighbor has called them. They said it's not impeding traffic. it's not illegal. It's been an ongoing problem with this neighbor, unfortunately. But back to the fluids in the road, that's like a day after it snowed. You can go check there's puddles when it snows, after it snows.
It was also past our house and
Yeah.
not in front of.
Point of
it.
order, Madam Chairman, point of order.
Yeah.
Could you have a seat, please? Yeah, if you could just sit up there. Thank you. Identify who you are as well. Thank you.
I'm Jessica Graves
200.
of 2 Leonard Ave.
Madam Chair, if you folks flip to, past the order, you'll see the business certificates for full throttle.
Okay.
Keep going a little bit, just one more page.
Page 6? I mean, tap.
No,
Nope.
no, no,
Right back here. Should have it
not there.
before it-
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I also have a packet for all three of these. Just
Sure.
showing other stuff in my bring.
Yep.
Yep.
It's the current business certificate at the top that the town just gave us. And there's just other, it's more zoning stuff in there. And I know Pat has, we've gone
Vehicle
back and forth about the
registrations.
zoning. And when I say about the zoning, I understand I can't do, as he says, I say I can do whatever I want. I understand that. The neighbor in that white house right there, who is directly abutting me, Jake, he was supposed to be here tonight but is on vacation. He made a call to the selectmen and told them that he is not annoyed by us. And that's directly where I park my vehicles, where I park my trucks up the road when I come home. The whole 4 hours idling thing feels expensive. I don't let my trucks idle for 4 hours. If I let them idle for 5 minutes before I leave the house, that's a lot. You know, it's just, it's the dirt. I understand that side yard come spring will be paved. We got ahead of us. The winter kind of got ahead of us. And usually it's not that muddy throughout the winter. It's just been a very, very
Wet.
wet winter. And that was my own doing. So we had a parking ban and I was like, oh, I gotta put the trucks in the yard. So I backed both trucks in the yard and of course
Sunk.
they sunk in the mud. That I have kind of no excuse for the dirt. But there's, you know, if you look through the packet, there's
Vehicles are registered.
yeah, all the registrations for all the vehicles, all the excise taxes for all the vehicles. I just have a hard time with the fact that I pay excise tax in town and for all these vehicles and registrations, and I can't even potentially have them at my own house. Whether the neighbors like vehicles or not, they don't, you know, they're not car people, they're sports people or whatever that may be.
To each their own.
Yeah, to each their own. But the three vehicles there are summer vehicles.
So is there somewhere else you could store them?
We have been looking for, you know, a facility that suits better. The problem is, well, finding one. I want to stay local. I like the town. We deal with Oxford, Webster, Dudley. I mean, I do all Worcester County and all Massachusetts, but I'm trying to stay local. Currently, haven't been able to find a spot. I've been looking.
Just had
A
one.
little bit more now that all this is going on. So, you know, the other aspect of it is, or the issue with it is, if I do find a place or make my house suitable with, as he said, paving and or making so I can park the trucks behind the house and out of, you know, shielding and fence, and I'm 100% willing to do that. I obviously little time would be, you know, nice, but In the meantime, I guess I could try to figure out somewhere to park the vehicles until fencing and stuff, you know, fencing and stuff goes up. You know, I'm not totally against, obviously, doing what needs to be done to a point. It's the guy across the street, well, the neighbor that is complaining, one of the two, has gone as far as calling the dog officer because our dog was dying and had kidney failure and he was losing weight. So he said we were malnourishing our dog. He has gone as far as, like, with registered, you know, four-wheelers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Registered four-wheelers and stuff like that, calls the cops because in the middle of the day on a Saturday, because he's annoyed by it. I spoke to another neighbor, and she got messaged on Facebook to not let her not make sure her dog doesn't get in his backyard because he's gonna call the dog officer next time. He's, you know, and he plays the game of, like, tonight you can drive by after you leave here, Pat. He has a light above his garage that's literally aiming into our bedroom. It's just, it's an ongoing neighbor feud. It's a one-way neighbor feud, in my personal opinion, because I don't say anything to him. I don't retaliate.
Retaliate
I don't want
anyway.
anything to do with the guy. He's outside, I stay inside. I wait till he goes outside, I get inside.
Go ahead.
I just have a few questions, and I can appreciate that, but honestly, all we really care about is the complaint, this current complaint.
Yep.
Whatever else went on, that's between you guys. We are just concerned about what this is. So are all the vehicles on your property registered?
All but
All the
one.
registrations are right there. Nope,
I
I'm
looked
just-
through them, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna match them up.
Yeah, yeah, no, I-
So there's only one unregistered vehicle on your property?
Currently, there's none.
There's none?
Because the one vehicle's on the trailer. I don't know if Pat disagrees with that. I don't know 100% about that, because
That's one of my.
What happened at the inspection was that unregistered car was on a registered trailer, so that doesn't count. It
that's what
doesn't.
I've been told by, I've been,
It doesn't count to register it?
It still does. So technically, the bylaw in town
Yep.
for a home, which you are still technically a
Yep,
home,
yep.
even though you're in industrial, the bylaw is you're only allowed one unregistered vehicle on your property. Whether it's on a flatbed, whether it's anywhere, you're only allowed one unregistered
okay,
vehicle
so
on
there's
your
one.
property.
There's one.
There's one.
So
Currently.
everything else is legal, up
Everything
to
else.
date?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay,
And when we
that's-
get the cease and desist, the tires and everything, when Pat did his re-inspection, all the tires are gone.
All the tires are gone?
The scrap metal that,
That's a huge importance
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
yeah, the scrap metal that he mentioned that was on the back of the flatbed was the stuff that, was also, if you look at the pictures, it was the stuff down the side of the house, and it was leaving. So it was
were getting rid of it.
later in the afternoon, it went on the truck and it was gone the next morning.
All the scrap metal's gone?
No. So there's scrap metal in the back of some of the pickup trucks.
Okay.
No? There's
There
not.
is not.
There's,
And I went by every day after I served the cease and desist order, and the ramp truck stayed there with the scrap on it, and the ramp truck stayed. And then after I went and met with them, they started to clean up their act and raked out the mud and made that smooth, and got rid of the car parts in the backyard and the wheels and tires. Some of the wheels and
Hold on.
tires have gone into the back of one of the trucks.
'Cause
So
the- Sorry, go ahead.
it's just not an appropriate operation for that
Right,
location.
And tires are a huge issue with Board of Health, because many different reasons, but tires are a huge, huge issue. So that's one of my, when I saw the pictures, that's one of my major concerns, is that tires throughout the year are bad, but especially in warm weather, it's just, they can't be just put anywhere. There's regulations on how tires can be disposed of and all these certain things, so we're very, very concerned about that. Another question, I gotta read my own writing, hold on.
There are no
Yeah,
tires on
I-
the ground.
there,
Well, in there was a pile of tires.
yep.
Right,
hold on.
but I'm
In-
saying as of,
In,
But are they,
it's going back on, I'm trying to scroll through my phone, because
No, that's okay. I
took
just-
my own pictures, dated.
I'm just asking
Because-
questions.
No, I know, sorry.
That's okay.
If I come off.
No, that's all right.
So I apologize.
So are there still tires on the back of a truck,
There's,
in the back of a truck?
I think there's two in the back of my plow truck.
That's
that
still a
are-
problem for me. Still a problem. big time.
Spares for that truck,
Don't they have a home underneath or something?
just in the bed of it.
Oh, really?
Well, that's where I mean, if the spare tire holder doesn't.
So the
hold
tires
it-
on a rim, they're
Yeah.
not just tires that were sitting around in the backyard like we saw?
Yeah, no, they're,
Okay.
Fully mounted.
One of my other questions is, so do you understand I understand you say you're in an industrial zone, and you are, but you still don't have a license to operate a junkyard, which is what, and I'm just talking, and I'm not accusing or anything, which is what if we look at pictures of that, that's what it looks like. You know, you've got scrap metal, you've got tires, you know, it's just, I get it. But even if you were allowed to do that, you can't have cars that you're bringing in, if you're not, whatever, on a,
flatbed.
on a surface that's
Oh.
impermeable?
That's
That's the word?
pervious.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
I was
no
getting to the word.
there's no dismantling. I just, trust.
But they still
when-
leak.
Right, even if you're, and that's the thing, is that if you, are you
I didn't
bringing
hear what
cars
Pat
there?
said.
And that's what I'm
They
gonna
said
ask.
they still leak.
Are you bringing cars there and dismantling them there?
Absolutely not. 100%. I know way better to do that than to do that in not even town laws, state wise. Like, I'm friends, I have plenty of friends that own scrap yards and junkyards, and that's not what happens at all.
Okay?
At all.
Just a couple more
What's
questions,
the
sorry.
oil, why is there oil on the ground then? What leaked? Like, how'd that happen unless,
They're,
I don't,
Which-
you know, like, I was
which-
just concerned when I saw
the-
the picture of the storm drain.
That's-
You know, there's
it's-
oil right there, or I
it's
just.
not, it's a water stain from it snowing and snow melting. It's 100% not oil. Like, if it is oil, one, that's not in front of my house, and two, it's 100% not for me.
That was the
I
storm
don't do
drain in
anything.
front of your house.
No, it's the next,
It's
it's the next,
past.
it's the next house down.
That's in front of our neighbor's home.
And I don't even do truck maintenance at my house because of this issue, because I don't want to deal with the guy across the street. I don't even do an oil change in my own truck. They go to shops because I don't want to deal with him so much.
Go ahead, Jen.
No, thank you. No, that's okay. So you said you had a neighbor that wanted to be here tonight. Well, why didn't they call the Board of Health? Why would you call the Selectmen's Office? The Selectmen's Office have
He might
nothing
have
to
got
do with this?
confused, I don't know.
I'm just asking, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, he
was
might
his-
have.
Our perspective.
Yeah,
he
when I
did that
met,
on
when
his
I,
own.
when I texted, we were texting back and forth this morning, he's like, I'm not gonna be able to make it, but I did make a phone, I did call the Board of Selectmen and let them know that you're not a nuisance, but that's, I mean, I
Yeah, 'cause-
didn't tell him to do anything,
No,
so.
no, because the Selectmen have absolutely no say over the Board of Health, because the Board of Health has their own codes and regulations and rules and everything that they have to abide by.
Yeah. So here's I'm trying to bring the date up on it. There's a picture I can show you that, so he served us on the 8th. This was the picture I took on the 10th, because the 8th was a Thursday afternoon at like. what?
2:30.
At 2:30. I had called Friday to try to get some information on, because I didn't maybe understand the cease and desist, like what needed to 100% be done. She tried calling like 5 times.
Several times.
He called me back at 11:10 and told me he wouldn't speak with me. So I got off the phone with him.
Because according to the paperwork, you're not the owner.
That was one of my questions.
Yeah.
Right, but then I called
Who's the owner of the property?
me.
And who's the
Well,
owner of the?
we're both.
On the assessors, it's listed as both of you or just yourself?
Well,
Just
it's
yourself.
just me.
Okay, that's, we have to go by what's legally there. And then, who's the owner of the business?
We both are.
Okay.
But she's the only one listed on the
Yeah,
business.
she's on the.
I'm on the
same thing. She owns it, I run it. You know, unfortunately, credit wasn't that great when we started. But here's a picture with a date, if I can show you this. He was saying that I didn't do anything until he came back. So here's everything cleaned up, the whole yard. You know, stuff, all the stuff down the, and that's on the 10th. We were served on the 8th at 2:30. Friday, I obviously had to work. So Saturday, I had help come over, and the same thing, the backyard where all the tires were, it's all cleaned up, you know, and that was, so, I don't know if she wants to see it or not. So, but yeah, so this is on the 10th. All tires are gone, cleaned up. The side yard, as I showed them, is the whole backyard's cleaned up. My fire pit, obviously, but,
And when was the last time you went, Pat?
Today.
After the 10th? And does it
I've
look
gone
like,
there every day.
so did you see those pictures? The
No,
yard was,
He did clean up.
Okay.
Significantly in the backyard after I probably went by 5 times and took pictures. He raked up the mud out flat and cleaned that up and tried to sweep up the street and that, but it really comes down to the nuisance of the vehicles being parked on the street with junk on them and cars on them. I could see someone having a tow truck and bringing one tow truck home, so that if they get a phone call and need to go out in the middle of the night, the tow truck's available. But bringing loaded vehicles back to that site is an absolute nuisance, and parking the trucks in the street for that commercial operation is absolutely a nuisance. It's just not the right spot for that. That'd be like saying it's zoned industrial, so I'm gonna put an asphalt plant here. Because asphalt plants are allowed by industrial zoning.
so, sorry, so an appropriate place to park them would be somewhere off-site,
Yeah.
right? Like you'd have to find another property.
so that whole area should be rezoned then. I mean,
No, see, this is where the discussion goes sideways, because it's a nuisance, and it's the Board of Health, and that's,
So if I may?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I let me back up and ask you. So how many trucks do you have? There were three trucks parked on the street.
I have 3 trucks, and in the winter months, there's 2 plow trucks.
Okay. And how many employees do you have?
I have 1 employee. It's me and one other guy.
So, okay.
We have two flatbeds.
So you're operating a business out of your home. I understand it's zoned industrial, but we don't care about zoning, unfortunately, because, like I said, zoning is a whole separate thing. We care about.
Usually my guy that drives one of my trucks, he has his truck at home.
Yep.
That truck don't even come to my house anymore. It used to, when I was one-man band with 3 trucks, but sometimes you needed to jump between different styles.
Right.
So,
And like I said, this is just the zoning doesn't concern us because we're talking about nuisances and everything, and I could get into the whole reason why they changed the zoning, but you don't need to hear that back in the day.
Yep.
Anyways, what the concern to me is, and I get that, yes, you should be able to, if you want to run your towing company, but the concern is that you have multiple vehicles at a residence that are business in a tough area. You don't have at this time, the necessary area to park the vehicles, so you do park them on the road, which I understand the police say it's a public way, da-da-da, I get that. But I also can understand why it would be an irritating, let's say, if you live on that road and you're constantly going down and going by them, and if it's consistently every day, I can understand how that could be annoying and irritating. If you were, I guess that's my
and if I,
take on that right now.
and at the current time, I'm in a little bit of a rock and a hard place, because if I did put them behind the house, then we go back to the dirt.
Correct, yeah,
So-
you're
so
basically,
it's,
Catch
I've
22.
been, we've been trying to park one, like today, on one of those pictures, or multiple. Most of the time, she has the pink truck, so at home, so when he's awful quiet. So with my 3-year-old, so if whatever, she goes out, she takes the pink truck. So that one sits in the driveway, that's not all the time, because I know I will get backlash on that if it's not 100% in the driveway all the time. But most of the time, that truck is in the driveway, and my other 2 plow trucks and the flatbed are on the side of the road when I come home. I mean, most times I'm gone by 7:30 and not home till 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock. So they're not there all day, like he's saying.
no, but if you can only drive one vehicle at a time.
Yeah.
The others are.
So.
Yeah, the 2 plow trucks sit there unless it's snowing, and then they go out.
And so I understand, you're in a rock between a hard place, but unfortunately, it's not even allowed through the Board of Health for it to be this way. I'm not getting,
You're not finding your words?
no.
It's a nuisance to the neighbors.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the proper area for it. If you had, if you had 3 acres and an acre of it was paved and it was properly done, it's not, you're on a very small lot, you're looking to put a lot on a very small lot, unfortunately, and I get it. It's just, you still are in a residential area regardless of what the zoning is, which stinks, You're, I feel for both sides.
You're right.
But we have certain things that we have to abide by as the Board of Health. When something comes up and it falls under a nuisance, and we've had 3 complaints about it, and time after time after time, because I continue to hear about them, it's something that we have to investigate.
Yeah, no,
And so
I mean-
it does show up, and it does fall under the nuisance.
Yeah, I mean.
We're not trying to make any.
Squeaky wheel gets hurt.
It's unfortunate,
and that's.
you know what I mean? That's the way that it is. If something gets we get a complaint in, we have to act upon it. Pat has to act upon it, not us, but we have to hear about it, because that's the way that the world goes.
And I get it, this is just a generic question, it isn't,
Yeah.
but when does it become that people see this one neighbor constantly
But
pestering?
it hasn't been 1, it's been 3.
Well, okay,
It's been
I know
3.
of 2, but those 2 are they bounce back and forth with each other.
Like
But-
for us, it doesn't matter if it's a family of 10 and all 10
Yeah.
people call in to complain.
Speaking of neighbors, I do want to go back on 2 of those pictures, or 3 of those pictures. I 100% know that he didn't have permission to be in my neighbor's yard, because that's the neighbor that was gonna come here with me tonight. So that's kinda hard to,
On 26 Hall.
on 26 Hall, that's kinda hard to say that, you have permission when he's with me.
Which number did you go,
I use the Zoom lens.
which neighbor?
The White House on the corner, that was the best vantage point.
Which is 26 Hall.
So,
I
I mean, I kinda got, so technically those pictures shouldn't even have came into, they're already
So
seen.
we could take those out,
They're
but
already-
still, what we
they've
saw.
already been seen, you can't erase what you see, but,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
right.
No.
regardless, there's been 3 separate complaints
yep.
about this, which then raises a red flag to us. And just driving down the street, you can see what was going on. I haven't been since it's been cleared up. I did go after
After that.
the February 8th, that afternoon. I did go, because I want to see what,
I hear. Yeah.
and I like to see what he's talking about, what the complaint is, to see, is there meat to it?
Yep.
So
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, as the Board of Health, when complaints come in, his job is to investigate, and our job is to see, he presents to us what code it falls under, what law, what Mass General law, what's our responsibility, unfortunately. And so, I've said everything I needed to. I answered thank you for answering my question.
Absolutely.
So how do we want to move forward?
My
I mean-
question would be, go ahead, Pat.
I have a suggestion. If he's willing to look for a place to park the trucks, that we continue this to the next meeting and give him a chance to find a place to put the trucks. Have an understanding that no scrap cars go back to that property, on trucks, in the street, on the property, whatever it is, but no scrap. Don't park things with junk and all that stuff
So-
on the street in front of the house.
Here's where I
Just
I
Just let 'em
appreciate.
finish, just let 'em finish.
And I think that that's a reasonable resolution for the neighbors that are complaining. I know I keep talking about cat and mouse, but we're playing a lot of cat and mouse with a lot of people in town. We don't have time for it. We just need to bring it to a close. So, I don't think it would be that difficult to find a place to park 3 trucks. And when I went by this over the weekend, the full throttle wheel lift, the nice looking truck was backed into the driveway. And the wife's car was packed on an angle so that they could get that truck into the driveway. So they've come closer, each time I've come by, but it's just the fact that they think they're entitled to do it. And it is a nuisance and it needs to move until they can find a way to not make it a nuisance. But I don't think that the lot's big enough. I just think it's the wrong place for.
All right, we're happy to give you time to
Yeah.
get things fixed.
I mean, like, he just
We
said
meet
it.
monthly.
He just said it himself. I'm working towards that, like.
Right, we
I-
understand that,
It's
so, I
not like,
mean.
you know, I didn't turn around and say, well, you know,
Right.
that,
Well,
I'm
I
not
mean,
doing
We
nothing.
can certainly table this till next month and have them come back.
Well, I
Or-
think, but I'm gonna make a motion.
Yep.
That Full Throttle, to Leonard Ave, continue to do and find a location for their vehicles, and continue to do as we've discussed this evening and Pat has instructed, and revisit on March 19th. That should be our
That's our
next
next-
meeting.
So if
But
at
they'll agree
that,
not to bring anything back to that property on trucks.
Correct, I'll amend that motion and add
yeah, that's, I haven't been,
to not bring
I've been making
anything
sure that there's
back
no,
to the property.
because like I said, I don't wanna, you know, I wanna say it's not a junk vehicle, it's not a junk car company. Like, I do vehicle transport, so.
Dealers.
Yeah, for auctions, dealers, brand new cars. There could be a
Right,
brand new car.
and that's
on that.
understandable, we understand that part, but the area of town that you live in doesn't support that.
Correct. Doesn't matter if
Right,
it's a
so
brand
like,
new car.
I looked at the pictures and I was like, ooh,
Yeah, no, I mean,
not pretty, right? So thank you for getting rid of the tires, but moving forward, I think,
So you have a motion
I have a
on the table.
motion. And, all right, so we have a motion, do you second that?
I second
And
that.
a second that, so all in favor?
Can we just open it for discussion?
Oh, yeah. You want to keep talking?
Well, yeah, you were talking, so I didn't mean to.
Oh,
cut you off.
no, I'm okay. I
Okay.
just wanted to
And
make
I-
sure that we're okay with this and moving
Right,
forward,
and
we understand what they need to
We do appreciate
do.
what you've done so far, but we do really need you to continue it.
yeah.
And, you know, we're not unreasonable by any means.
No,
It's
if,
just
so,
when,
so and you can tell me no, yes, maybe. If there was plans, if I brought plans to do something as a,
unfortunately, we need to have this a remedy
Or do-
sooner rather
or
than
do it.
later. Do you know what I mean?
So a plan, what do you mean? Like if you were going to come forward with a plan on the 19th to say this is what you're doing?
yeah, where I would
think we-
park the vehicles on the where I would park my trucks on the property. I
Right.
mean, it's only, realistically, we're only talking the four, well, it's the four of the business vehicles.
I think if I understand this correctly, what we want you to do by March 19th is to already have that done? Did I understand that
To park
correctly?
the truck somewhere else. The trucks don't.
Yeah,
belong
that's the
there.
plan. Find a new home for those. Not come to us on the 19th and say, all right, here's our plan, we'll do it next week or in April. Like, does that make sense? Did I understand that correctly? Okay. So,
Because
we'll,
what happens in cases like this, and this happens in wetlands cases, you tell someone to file a plan as part of their restoration, and they file a plan that they know you can't approve. And I'm not saying you would, but I'm just saying that they file a plan that you won't approve, and then it goes on to file a new plan, and it just drags on. Even if he paved the backyard, it wouldn't be an appropriate place to park 5 trucks. I don't know how you're gonna screen them from the neighbors.
That's just a fence.
And-
That's,
And you have a stormwater bylaw, and that if you create more than 5,000 square feet of impervious surface, now you need a stormwater permit. And by bringing in towing vehicles and all of that, it becomes a high-intensity use. And then your MS4 stuff kicks in, and EPA regulations and DEP regulations kick in. It turns into a very cumbersome and expensive process, and it would not be resolved for months and months. It really needs to be parked somewhere else. That resolves the problem.
okay. Good?
So now we can take a vote.
No, start over, all
Can you just say
right.
what the motion was, though, so we're,
Yeah,
Do you want me to repeat it, or do you want me to make sure she has it
make sure
correctly?
Amanda has it.
Motion to continue this as long as they agree to find a new place for their vehicles and not bring anything back to that property.
Can I
there
make
was
one
an
suggestion
amendment,
to
right?
add to that? That you will toll the penalty from this date to that date, so it wouldn't be fair
Oh,
if
yeah.
they don't cooperate.
Yes,
And we gave them a month to hit them with a penalty for a month. So the penalty would stop as of, if there was to be a penalty.
right, it would stop
the
as of
penalty would
today.
be tolled from this date,
Correct.
which means it would stop.
Yes.
In case there was.
Yes, I'll take that. Do you accept that as well?
My other,
Yes.
I have one more question, sorry.
You can't, there's no discussion from him with a motion in a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes. I have a
Now you
motion
can
in a
ask.
second. Okay, now you can ask your question now. We
Just
just put it-
a general
Yeah.
question. So, once this is done, and I have my trucks parked somewhere else, as you said, Pat, about, I'm technically 24 hours.
Yep.
Do I have permission to have one truck at home when I'm,
That's reasonable.
all right. That's, I mean, I'm like, as I said to you that day, I'm like, I don't even have,
I drove a tow truck for 10 years.
I was gonna say, I don't have one. Like, I don't have
I
a,
drive home every day.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's reasonable.
And might I also add, if you have any questions, give Amanda a call in the
Okay.
Board of Health.
Yep.
By all means, or shoot her an email, and absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your time. Yeah, I believe that's the next. I looked up quick, it's March 19th, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it is March 19th.
Okay. Is it?
Okay, yeah.
So the next item on the agenda is Stave and Still. And that's under your next tab. You'll see a business certificate for Whiskey Rocks dated December 15th, 2023. And you'll see a workman's comp affidavit, and then you'll see another business certificate dated December 15th, 2023 for Stave and Still, located at the same address as Whiskey Rocks. And if you flip in a little further, you'll come to a picture of a sign for Stave and Still. Keep going. Yeah, so when we were going through all these iterations of the applications, the Board of Health had made it very clear that they felt that this was one operation, it was all Whiskey Rocks. The plan was changed to say, you know, it's all one operation, 7,500 square feet, Whiskey Rocks. And the application was scratched out for Stave and Still, the insurance certificate was scratched out for Stave and Still. We approved the plans, and somehow, I think in looking at the business certificates for Full Throttle, Amanda came across the business certificates for Whiskey Rocks. So while we were discussing the one entity thing, we wound up having two business certificates for two separate businesses. And now there's an application pending before the building inspector to mount the Stave and Still sign. And I believe in our discussions, we had mentioned that it's fine to put your Stave and Still sign inside for a decoration, but that it's Whiskey Rocks. I'm not the building inspector. I have no say over that. We did ask Nelson, you know, is this for real? And he said, yes, you know, it's for real. He doesn't have a decision on whether or not it's allowed. He wanted to do some research and see if it was allowed. And I just feel like we keep revisiting this thing. And if it's gonna be Stave and Still, and there's gonna be a sign out front that says Stave and Still, then it's a separate operation. And it would be my recommendation that there be a separate food license for Stave and Still. And I don't know if they're opposed to that or what, but if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
Madam Chair, may I be?
You can come up.
Okay, great. So Jessica Valby's Whiskey Rocks Incorporated.
The business certificate that I believe Pat is referring to is an application for a DBA. The DBA, there are two. It is filed as Whiskey Rocks Incorporated, DBA Whiskey Rocks, and Whiskey Rocks Incorporated, DBA Stave and Still. A DBA does not mean that there is a separate business. It is considered almost a fictitious name. It changes nothing on the structure of the corporation.
Were you reading that?
I'm looking at the business certificates that I filed on December 15th with the town clerk downstairs.
So they're in your. they're in the
Did it
next
say
tab.
DBA on there somewhere?
Yes, it does. That form is the creation of the DBA.
And then she's saying this, and then if you flip the next page, or the 2 pages.
Okay.
So I got my law degree on Facebook, so we don't want to listen to me about this, but I suggest if that's the Valby's contention, that we contact town council and ask him for his opinion on it.
So if I can also, I'm sure you don't have it, but if I can refer to the food establishment plan review application that was submitted on January 15th. The 5 of us, Jennifer Cano, I have it if you'd like to see a copy of it. Patrick Hannon, Jennifer Canoyer, Amanda, myself, and my husband sat in the office and reviewed this initial application. I clearly listed food establishment information, Whiskey Rocks Incorporated, DBA Whiskey Rocks, DBA Stave and Still, to provide full transparency that we fully intended on having both DBAs listed under the sole entity of Whiskey Rocks. It was adamantly discussed for probably 7 minutes that the DBAs be removed from this application. And when I amended the application, sent the edits to Amanda, I did so. And it was amended in the portal as such.
Madam Chair, I have a question, if I may. I
course.
just have a couple questions, that's
Go
what
for
I'm trying
it.
to. So, yeah, and I remember we said it was gonna be one entity, you have one liquor license.
We have one, well, yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes, we submitted the application. Everything has indicated Whiskey Rocks Incorporated.
Correct, it's one liquor license for the 7,500 square feet.
Well, I'm not
Understand.
quite sure how Board of Health has purview over liquor licenses at this point.
We
We're
have to
talking
follow-
about, we're
yes, and
talking
we have
about the
to
food
follow-
application.
Correct, and we have to follow how it's listed for a liquor license.
Why your Board of Health?
Because if one liquor license is being given, that is assuming that it's going to be one location.
Correct.
One restaurant.
Correct, as is how the
Correct, one
corporation is
restaurant.
filed with the
And
state
so,
of
Nancy,
Massachusetts.
if I-
Jess,
Just
hold
one second, I just want to ask questions so that
Yes.
I understand. So it's one restaurant. Your slip, is it still going to say Whiskey Rocks on both sides?
Yes, as it does.
So it's one restaurant.
Correct,
So it's one restaurant, Whiskey Rocks.
correct.
Why if you're advertising 2 separate restaurants, Whiskey Rocks, Stave and Still, then that's 2 separate restaurants. Do you see where the disconnect is?
No.
Okay.
You don't?
You don't?
I mean, I don't, but I don't understand from your perspective how having a DBA changes the business structure, because legally it doesn't.
It's not the DBA. You're advertising 2 separate restaurants now. You have signs up for 2 separate restaurants.
Correct,
You have 1 food permit.
correct.
Somebody's gonna cut for Whiskey Rocks. Now, people are gonna
For
come in.
Whiskey Rocks Incorporated, which spans the total 7,542 square feet.
I understand that's what you're saying, but people are now gonna come to us and say, why doesn't, you have a sign up for Stave and Still, why don't they have a food permit?
We do have a food permit. The premises is established as one location.
Correct. So
Under
there
the
should be one
corporation.
name.
The lease. I can say table 1 is Apple Restaurant. Table 2 is Banana Restaurant.
So, okay, and just, I'm trying to figure this out, so that's why, so now if you go, and I'm not comparing you to a Mass Pike stop, okay? But if you go there, there's McDonald's, Sbarro, Dunkin' Donuts, they all have separate food permits, they're all under one roof, they can all be owned by the same corporation, but they all have separate food permits because they're all separate names.
Do they operate all out of the same kitchen?
That's what I'm trying to.
We operate out of the same kitchen.
So you're one restaurant.
Correct.
How do we miss that?
We knew there were one restaurant.
So I don't understand why we're doing this again.
Nor do I. If you guys want to see us that much, you can come in the restaurant.
No, I told you the other day, I want to be done.
Yeah, so do I.
This has consumed way too much
And
of
the
our
question
time.
of what are we doing? We're trying to operate our business, and the harassment over this came up from a sign permit. I don't understand how sign permitting is under the scope of Board of Health.
Goes through the same office. It's the same.
It's the same office, but it's not the same agents. And you said prior,
The Board of Health has to sign off on it.
why does the Board of Health have to sign off on a sign permit?
Because it involves a restaurant, and any restaurant has to go through the board. That's the policy of the town.
Where is that published?
Jess, how long have you owned a restaurant in our town?
I've owned it in this town, I've owned it for 2 years.
So you should know that this is how it's done.
Why does a sign have to go through Board of
So
Health?
I guess what I want to go back on is, what I want to understand is we did an extra meeting at the beginning of this month and we looked at those large plans. And those large plans that were revised, you got those plans for us. You brought them forward on the 25th. They were stamped 125. We talked about them at the beginning of this month and we agreed. You both agreed.
Yep, and they
we
were
gonna-
approved.
And those plans were for what?
Those,
Whiskey Rocks?
they were
The
for,
whole
no, they were
building?
for one entity.
And we agreed.
Whiskey
And-
Rocks. The
And you
kitchen-
guys left knowing that you were opening that week on Whiskey Rocks. And here we go again. Now all of a sudden, we need to revisit this because
It's
you have,
not-
Jess, you have a huge building, but there's gonna be 2 restaurants in there.
But we
And you
knew that
need-
from day one.
So maybe I was sleeping.
No, this was,
I
I'm
don't
sorry, but this
understand.
was filed December 15th, before I even filed for the renewal.
Our impression, and I apologize,
I
but I
think
think
maybe
our
things were
impression was that it was going to be Whiskey Rocks. Yes, that Stave & Still would have its own side,
Yeah.
but it was Whiskey Rocks. I think that was, I'm not
But it
speaking
still
to you,
is.
I know,
but I'm-
It still
I'm
is.
saying-
Everyone knew that it was going to be operating out of one kitchen. There was a dividing wall that didn't go up to the ceiling. That was the other determining factor, confirming that it was one entity. We submitted both menus. There was never a
I
conversation
think
that,
by adding the second sign, it's
Craig Valby, Whiskey Rocks, for Airport Road.
My
Oh,
turn.
I'm sorry.
I think by adding a second sign, you're saying that you're back to your Stave and Still from Webster and your Whiskey Rocks in Dudley.
but
It doesn't matter if it's one building.
operating,
Is that what I am
but
understanding
providing
now?
that
I
menu,
don't-
offering that menu within that space is saying that.
You have to have the Stave and Still sign? I'm just
Yes.
asking.
Yes, because
Okay.
that's my business, and I haven't heard
I
a
feel
single
like we're-
reason why I can't.
I guess that's where you raised your hand. Please help me, because I don't understand.
what I-
If by putting up a sign, I'm so confused. If by putting up a second sign, now we're in this debacle again where we have to drag this out more, which I'm really tired of it. And I'm sure you guys are tired of it too, right? Let's speak frankly, right?
Yeah, this is
I'm all done
ridiculous.
with this nonsense, to be honest. Why if putting up a second sign is gonna delay this again, and you're saying you want to because it's your business, I get it, you worked hard.
Right.
Why can't they just have the sign?
Well,
I just
first
need
of all,
help.
There's been a few statements made here. First of all, the Board of Health does have jurisdiction over any change to a food establishment.
Mm-hmm.
You want to change your hours, you want to change your menu, you want to change your name, you want to hang up another sign, you want to do whatever. We have jurisdiction over that, and that goes through our office. And that's why Amanda alerted me to it. We're not sitting here looking at the computer saying, let's see what we can do to
Yeah.
Whiskey Rock. That's not happening, okay? On the other side of it, if you're gonna have a separate sign and a separate menu and all of those things, it's a separate business. And rather than take the applicant's word for this, I would rather talk to Jeff Blake and get an opinion from town council that they've got a Stave and Still business certificate. They've applied for an application to hang up a Stave and Still sign. They're running a Stave and Still menu. Is it a separate restaurant? Let's leave it to the professionals.
Is there really a separate Stave and Still menu?
Yes.
There is?
Yes, and that was presented in December
To whom?
to Patrick
To us.
and Jennifer, and it was attached with the renewal. All of this was very transparent. This isn't like a bait and switch, like, oh, all of a sudden, now we're gonna do Stave and Still's menu. This was very clear. And this business certificate for a DBA, which doesn't change the corporation at all, was filed December 15th. So this is not news. This is not all of a sudden. What's all of a sudden is now there's a problem.
It is news. We didn't know that the business certificates were filed.
How does a DBA affect the structure of a corporation?
We're trying to explain that to you. So just give us a minute to explain it to you. I understand you got your thoughts in your head and you got it your certain way. I'm trying to learn this too, because I don't get it, because I figured we came here, there was one menu. You talked about it all on that application.
No, it was
and
two menus on that application.
I didn't see two menus. I didn't see two menus.
Pat, did I present you two menus via email?
There are two menus in the portal. I don't know that the Stave and Still menu is complete. It looks like more desserts than anything else, but
The
there
Stave and
was.
Still menu was absolutely presented to you because you questioned the oysters, and as such, we removed them.
I questioned that when I looked at your website and saw that you sold.
And then I
oysters.
emailed it and attached it to
I didn't
the,
get that
this,
from menu. I got that off, and if I could talk without being interrupted, it would be great. The information on the oysters came from their Facebook page. I look at everyone's Facebook page, look at everyone's social media stuff, I check their menus, I check their hours, I check all of those things. I just want an opinion from town council. It's that simple. We didn't tell them they had to close Stave and Still. We didn't tell them they had to do anything. But I would like an opinion from town council, because if town council says this is a separate license, then maybe they don't want to put that sign up. But if they want to go through the expense of putting the sign up, and then have town council say this is two separate businesses, two separate licenses, then they're not gonna be able to operate Stave and Still until they get a license, and it won't be done in 48 hours. We have a lot of stuff going on here. We have 30 days to approve a permit. I get people living in houses with no heat since December. So, I would appreciate a motion from this board to send this to town council and ask him for his opinion, and that'll be the end of that's the end of the day. We're not lawyers, and neither are they. And
They
that's
can
why
still
town
run the
council's
business
that's why
while we're
town coun-
waiting.
They can run their business. We didn't say they had to close it down. We've never even hinted at that.
Madam Chair, may I say something now? Can I get my food permit that I was told was approved 2 weeks ago? Can I actually get the written copy?
Can we get through one thing, then we'll go right back to that? Absolutely.
I just want to know why it's been held up for 2 weeks. I paid it back 2 months ago.
I don't, can we just get the sign, this whole first thing, then we'll go right to that, I promise you.
Actually, Whiskey Rocks is next. After this. This is Stave and Still. We're not on-
Stave and Still is not a separate
DBA.
entity. It is a DBA under a corporation. We've gone through, there are so many mitigating factors here. The wall does not go up to the ceiling. The kitchen, well, that did matter when we spoke about it early, about opening one side versus the entire entity. So it does matter. And that came straight from your mouth. So I would like to confirm that this is one entity. A DBA does not constitute a brand-new business. It does not require a new FEIN. Everything operates out of the same kitchen. All of this was completely transparent via application that was demanded I change, and it was also submitted, both menus were submitted by email. And if it is code or some sort of bylaw from the town of Dudley that an exterior sign falls under the
Requires a separate-
purview of Board of Health, I would like to see that in writing.
And requires a separate food permit and a separate business license. It's just a sign.
So,
May I make a motion? To put this all to rest, this part, I'm gonna make a motion that town council gets contacted and that I don't know the answer. I'm not, like I said, this way we'll have a ruling from an attorney, it'll be over and done with. We can put it to bed, whatever needs to be done. I make that motion that we contact and find out, like you said, one kitchen,
One liquor license.
one license,
One food permit.
one food permit, two separate DBAs, what,
One sign, two signs, whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
just we do it correctly.
Just
That doesn't mean you have to
get
shut.
an opinion from town council.
They
I
don't
make
have to
that
close down.
motion.
Have a motion? Have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Okay. Now
All right.
answer Craig's, I cut Craig off.
Go ahead,
so.
Craig.
So, that's,
You want-
Sorry.
Did you want to finish?
Well, I guess
talking?
that's the next topic on the
That's the end
agenda.
of that agenda.
Okay.
item. So the next thing on the agenda is Whiskey Rock's change in floor plan for the kitchen. We have a new floor plan, and when Amanda and I went out to do the pre-operational inspection of the kitchen, after the board approved the January 25th plan, is that right, Amanda? Yep. We went out to do an inspection, and there was more equipment in the kitchen than the plan that we approved on the 25th. And there was a misunderstanding between Mr. Valby, that he didn't realize that racking and shelves and things were considered equipment. He thought that equipment was cooking equipment, right?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
I totally agree with you 100% right there, yes.
Okay. So, when we got there, the kitchen looked really, really tight. And it wasn't that tight when I first came to work here, and Staven still wasn't there. So, here's their new proposed floor plan. And I wasn't sending the food permit out until we had an approved floor plan. And here's the amendment. If the board wants to approve this plan tonight, which I'm in favor of, we've agreed. We've
For our
gone over
conversation,
every
yep.
piece.
You left me a
I've already-
voicemail last week, yep.
I've already approved the floor plan myself, for you folks to approve it. And as soon as I can go back and verify that the kitchen looks like this, then he gets his food service permit. But he's allowed to be open. We let him open. So, and after this floor plan, there's some notes that Amanda took on the visit. And you'll see that there was still some present issues, that racking wasn't moved. There was a lot of cooking equipment from Staven still in there, and they agreed to take that out.
And you came by and correctly saw?
No, I
Okay,
know.
Okay,
I'm with you.
I know, and the one rack, it was the one rack you and I discussed.
That was too wide.
It was too wide to make it skinnier, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And he agreed to get a new kitchen layout, and
And I had it Tuesday like I told you I would.
it's exactly what we spoke about.
There you go.
Just want to make sure that that's what it is. And we get his food permit.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the plan dated 2/12/2024, the kitchen floor plan.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
That's that.
So when? Thanks, guys.
So when will that food permit be available to pick up?
You're open tomorrow, right?
Yes.
We open tomorrow at 5.
I'll come by at 4 and match up the
Perfect.
the plan.
I'll see you at 4.
And then probably Thursday, you can get your permit.
Perfect.
I guess I'm confused. I thought it was already approved. Craig said that he spoke to you on Wednesday and said it was approved, ready to go.
But then
We
you
could pick it
changed
up
the
on
floor
30.
plan. You changed the floor plan in the kitchen. I want to know that it matches. We were very clear about that
We-
2 seconds ago.
Just let go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as soon as we hear anything back, we will let you know from town council.
From Mr. Blake?
Yep.
Yep. We'll let you know.
Are we part of that conversation?
We're gonna, we send town council information.
We're not giving up attorney-client privilege. We're going to
No.
talk to our attorney.
We will send him all the information, and then what he sends back to us, usually there's a decision in there, and you'll be privileged to the decision. We're just basically sending him what you've submitted and information from the meeting.
So he's going to make a unilateral decision based on the information you provide?
But the information that you've provided to us, such as the application stating that there are 2 separate DBAs, explaining it the way that you did. Amanda will send in minutes from this, that it's one corporation, one liquor license. Everything that we've discussed will
Yeah.
get sent to him.
He'll also view this meeting. He'll
Oh,
watch
yeah, he'll
the
watch
meeting.
everything.
He'll check that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda, under the next tab, is a requested change in hours for firebrands. So he's asking for Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 to 10 p.m. And Friday, Saturday, Friday and Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
You gonna do brunch?
He may. Yep, so, since we've been out to visit and been visiting a few more, Kevin has become reinvigorated in his business. And he does want to open more hours, and he is making some positive steps, as slow as they may be. But he was dealing with some health issues. He just got clearance from all of that. And I'd recommend that you accept the change in hours.
I want to just ask one question, because I know, sorry,
No,
beat
go
you to
you.
it, I think. I've heard a lot of comments out there, you know, how do we have the right to tell people when they can and can't open and such? How do we, Board of Health, dictate the hours? Can you just explain a little bit of that, why this has to be done in this process? Because
So
I think a lot of
if
people don't
you-
understand.
If you go through the rather lengthy application that we have on OpenGov, it asks you a lot of hours. It asks you what hours you do your preparation work in your kitchen. It asks you what hours you're gonna be open and closed. And that's so that we know when to stop by and do an inspection. If I suspect there's something wrong, something's happened at prep time, I wanna go see if the prep guy's doing his job. Is he washing his hands? Is everything sitting out getting warm? You know, what's the deal? Same with the kitchen being open. I wanna know when it's open. If I wanna go by, I can go by at 11 o'clock, or I can go by at 4 o'clock on these days. So we need to know when they're open, plus if we get complaints. Some people's competitors file false complaints. It's not an unusual thing. And if someone says, I went to Firebrands at 4 o'clock on Monday, but I got sick, we can say, well, that's funny, because they're not open on Mondays. And that's important information for us to have. Even changes in menu. If you want to change your menu, you have to send that into the Board of Health and get that approved, because you may trigger a special handling of some of those foods, like a HACCP plan. So,
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if I may. Two quick things. First, about Firebrands. So I know you had given them some orders. They are working on things. They are progressing.
yes, but
Is it in the manner that we would like?
no, I'm gonna be following up on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Because,
I'm working
all
with him
for
to
it.
get him to work with us.
Perfect. I'm all for them opening more hours. I think,
Yes.
Businesses should be open more and service the public, and absolutely. So my second thing is, could we, in the future, in your spare time, send out a little FYI to all the food establishments, stating that they need to remember to notify us of change of hours? And it's not a silly thing, it's not, it's required in the food code. And that if they change their menu, that it's required in the food code. That they need to be proactive with us, so that we don't they don't become defensive against us.
They all need to take it more seriously. Things got very, very lax. I just can't say that enough times.
I know.
And they just need to take it more serious.
Could we send something to them, maybe?
So, well, but here's the next shoe to drop on that. I've spoken to you. My feeling is that everyone that works in a restaurant should be allergen trained. It does no good for the manager who works in the kitchen to be the person who's allergen awareness trained. And if you look into the FDA training, if you go into my restaurant and you tell the waitress that you're allergic to shellfish, is lobster a shellfish? Okay, and I've been here with this one. I'm the waitress. I'm supposed to go see the manager, or whoever's the allergen trained person, and usually it's the manager, and they're supposed to come out and take your order. And they're supposed to go back to the kitchen and communicate that there's an allergy at that table, and then they're supposed to make sure before that food gets delivered by them to that table that everything is safe to eat. We don't have that going on in this town. We have one person per establishment who is allergy awareness trained. It's $10 to take the test to be allergy awareness tested and certified. It's literally a 20-minute video. You don't even take a test. You just watch a video and you print out the certificate, I'm a proctor for ServSafe. We could have people from restaurants come here. We could schedule exams. They could watch the video for 20 minutes, and everybody leaves allergen awareness training. I also think that there should be more than one ServSafe manager for each establishment. There needs to be a ServSafe manager on every shift that restaurant's open.
So is it just that I thought that it must be that it just has to be one ServSafe person, not a ServSafe manager?
So you need to be a ServSafe manager to get a food license.
Right.
But they have the authority to designate to a person in charge the authority to run the kitchen for the night. And they're saying that they have trained the person in charge. I'm running into food service managers who can't even tell you what temperature something needs to be cooked to, how long it can be held, all of these things. It's a pretty simple test, but unless you work at it, you're not gonna pick it up. I'm also a proctor for the ServSafe Managers Test. People could come here, pay the $36 for the exam, but not have to pay the $100 to take the class. And this could be done on a Saturday. They could be done on a weeknight.
And just so I'm clear, the money for the exam and the test goes not to you.
National Restaurant Association.
Thank you. Just wanted to
The money for the exam
clarify.
goes to you. They would actually go on the ServSafe website
And,
and pay for the test.
right.
And then I go look up their test under my proctor's number. I register my number, they register their number, and when they come in, I give them a laptop, I activate their test. They take their test, and then I close their test, and it either says you passed or you didn't. And if they pass, you print out their certificate, and they're on their way.
I do think
And
re-education is a
Yeah.
big part of our problem.
It's a
in town.
huge part of it, a huge part of it. And with the cost of food, and the fact that the bulk of our pizza shops can't raise their prices enough to charge 3 times what their cost of that food is, because that's how restaurants work. You need to charge 3 times your food cost to make money. And I watched Fox to fall asleep. A cheese pizza in New York right now is $56.
It's just dough.
And cheese is
And cheese.
expensive.
And sometimes good
And
sauce.
cheese, whoa. My
So they're
God.
tending to hold on to things, they're tending to hold on to things longer than they can.
Yeah.
And we have a problem with reheating. And I think that we're gonna be saying you can only reheat stuff once, because after that it requires a HACCP plan. And I have a factoid for you. Bacteria doubles every 9 minutes in the food while you're reheating it. Every 9 minutes until it gets to that 165 degrees. And when you chill that food the night before, it only kills some of the bacteria. And to kill pathogens, bacteria, all of those things, it would need to be frozen for 3 days again. And I stumbled across this whole thing about restricted fish. And there's a whole bunch of fish that are high in parasites. And if you buy red snapper and some other things, a letter of destruction has to come from the fish dealer that says, this fish was frozen for 3 days at minus 45 degrees to kill the parasites. So there is a lot to it,
Yeah.
and that's why we want to know when you change your menu, that you don't start selling oysters and try and hold them for 2 weeks and all these things. So these are important things.
Right.
And it'll give us time to focus on more Board of Health matters than being restaurant inspectors and house inspectors.
I like the idea of the training.
It's a great opportunity for them. I don't know of another town that offers that, but it benefits us as a town.
Yeah, we should put that out there somehow.
Right, that's why I said
Let's
if we
talk
could
more.
do a little FYI, kind of thing to them at
Well,
some point,
If we pass a regulation on reheating,
then,
they'll get a notification with that letter.
perfect.
Okay.
And we should actually do the allergy training and the ServSafe at the same time.
It's
It's
not
only
difficult.
$36 for a ServSafe manager's test.
It's
That's
not
all they have to pay.
difficult.
And the employer should be glad to pay it and know that this person working there
Right.
actually took the training and actually knows the temperatures. And it's not the know-all, solve-all, it's to say that you know better. That's what all these trainings are, even the EPA exams. Art to say, well, you took that exam, you passed it, so you know better. You know you shouldn't have done that.
Right.
So
Okay.
that would work out great. The,
Oh, so do you want
Do you wanna make a
motion about the firebrands, or?
yes,
Okay.
you have to, yeah.
I
you
make a
have to accept
motion
those.
to accept the new hours for firebrands.
Second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Okay. 58 Brandon Road is the next thing on the agenda. This was a housing inspection, and this was one that really triggered me to get going on the local regulation. This is a 4-unit apartment house. Front door with no lock, stairs not shoveled. Let me just, this is worth seeing. Just give me 1 second.
Why? You did very well.
I want to be with them.
I know. They're having fun.
It's so nice.
No responsibilities.
Well, I can't find it.
That's all
So
right.
while I was there, I took a picture of the smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, and it was mounted on the wall at about the height of that picture right there. Okay? It belongs up there. The lady had called about mold, was her complaint. And literally, there was mold this thick on the windowsills from excessive moisture coming into the house. The house had replacement windows put in it. The replacement windows don't touch all the way down to the bottom of the sill. So there's moisture coming in, and they told her that that was normal, and that she needed to. There was paint in their living room that was all bubbled off the wall. There's moisture coming in on the wall. The broken lights in the common lighting. People get a little defeated when the landlord starts to let the house run down, and they start letting the house run down. And this needs some significant stuff done to it. One of the tenants from upstairs saw me, and she came down and she said, "Do you want to see my apartment too?" And I said, "No." Not right now, because I don't want them to get evicted or have their rent raised. And that's why I haven't sent an order out. And I am gonna call her tomorrow and tell her that at our next meeting, we'll probably be passing this regulation, and that at that time, I can send out the correction action, because they have cleaned up 99% of the mold. The basement's soaking wet. There's gonna be more mold again. But again, a little 4-room apartment, 2 little kids living in 1 room, very cramped quarters, and the landlords are just taking advantage of these people. She said her rent went up $90, and not after she complained, and she's fine with that. But for the other people, for the rent to more than double the day somebody bought the house, and then refused to fix anything to try and drive them out, is unconscionable for that. So, a few regulations in town, and we'll tighten it right up. And then Earth Day.
Yeah, I was
I wanna
looking
get
for
going
the
on
date.
Earth Day. It's gonna be on top of us before we know it.
So I looked the other day, what's the date? We didn't vote on a date yet, did we?
No, we need to.
Okay.
And we need to get permission from the selectmen at a selectmen's meeting. We have to send
Okay.
a request for permission. Usually Amanda will send a request to them for the date that we are looking for use of the transfer station, not the transfer station, excuse me, the
Yeah.
highway garage. And they do it at an selectmen's meeting, they approve it, or,
And we usually do it on a Saturday.
yes.
Yep, have you ever done anything in the back parking lot for Earth Day?
The reason why
Here?
Yeah.
we haven't is the dumpster, it goes to the,
Oh, when I'm talking about some different Earth Day activities,
no,
because I think that there's some Earth Day activities that we could get people involved in that maybe just don't want to go out and pick up trash, but maybe they'd like to come to something in the back parking lot. We could get a couple of food vendors to come by. I know that the USDA hands out seeds, vegetable and garden seeds that are grown for this area and our growing conditions. few other things. And make it more than just going out, picking up trash and putting it in yellow bags and dropping it off. Maybe you give them lunch after that, and everybody meets here, and there's a brick oven pizza guy here or whatever, and we could make that work. Put a little lipstick on it.
Yep, I agree. Just saw a post the other day on Facebook about, thank God it was snowing because it covered up the trash. And I was like, these are the same people who complain but never come to help. So,
But I'm gonna tell you that this, the nuisance is the way to go on cleaning up this trash around town.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of properties that have so much crap beside their
Yeah.
houses. And if you stop by and tell them you want them to clean it up, if they say no, you drop them off a nuisance order and they have to clean it up.
right. We have a lot of streets in town though that, are cut-throughs. So Schofield cuts through to Connecticut and it's dark, right? And then,
Tubbs Hill.
yep, Pierpont's the same
Pierpont.
way.
And
It's
that's-
dark and
that's-
that's where we get the majority of our
Nip country.
trash.
Nip country. Yeah.
So,
We have the same problem where I live.
I know, it's
And-
just,
And it was the one side of the road headed into Rhode Island, because we're a Rhode Island border town. And all the nips were southbound, every day.
yeah,
You could sweep them up with a street sweeper, and you'd probably pick up 50 of them, and the next day it's right back out there again.
right.
Yep.
So, I did get your litter cleaned up on the entryway into Dudley. Dippin' Donuts picked up their trash. She actually hired a landscaper the next day and cleaned up her place. Dollar General's keeping their place clean. I made them put a trash barrel up front. She's doing it. Cumberland Farms added a second trash barrel. They're picking up their trash. And it's just stopping in and giving them that nudge. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it is pretty gross.
So when would you like to do it then?
The 20th,
Of,
April? Don't we do it in April?
Yeah, this year it's April 22nd, so yeah.
is that Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
Yeah. I'm good.
I feel like that date's gonna bite me in the rear end, but I'm gonna put it down.
So what times do you want to request?
Oh, how early do we start?
We usually
9?
start at 8.
Will Dudley be awake by 8?
Yep,
Okay.
Dudley will.
Dudley's gotta be awake. Let's do 8 to 12, that's what we.
That's what we normally do down
Yeah.
over there.
So we wanna run 2 things at the same time, we're,
No, maybe you start something here at noontime.
okay, yeah, afterwards.
Yeah, and
Yep.
you have some of it geared towards kids,
Mm-hmm,
some of it geared toward the parents, and have some things to give away that they could use.
mm-hmm.
And I would not be shy about asking a couple of places in town to donate some food.
April, is that already baseball time? Are we gonna find out when's the
Oh.
parade? It won't be, my kids are much older, so I don't know.
I don't know, because that could interfere.
Do you guys have kids that play baseball? No, 3. Oh, okay. No,
Not yet.
Emily doesn't play softball,
Amanda?
right?
I was asking Amanda.
Oh, do you?
I want to say that's right around the time.
That's what I'm thinking, it's usually.
So that means if there's a parade, it starts here.
So let's leave it with the TBD, and we can talk about it.
Okay.
We
The
can find out
after-
when they plan on having that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll say April 20th, 8 to 12 for Earth Day up
At the highway.
at the highway department.
And we'll have to talk to MJ about a dumpster. Because we get one.
And maybe we could give away some bicycle helmets on Earth Day, too.
I know.
Yes.
Those are really nice helmets, those are Bell.
Those
Those are from
top-
Children's Hospital.
Those are top of the line.
Uh-huh.
helmets.
So again, if anyone's in
Need
need
a
of a
helmet?
bicycle helmet, come to the Board of Health office. We have all different sizes, male, female.
They're good for 6 years old to 14. Oh, 8 to 14.
We had some pre-Ks.
I think we gave them,
Did we?
because she didn't bring those last year.
Well, I didn't
Oh.
read every box. The
We had some
majority of
ones
them
for
are 8 to
little ones
14.
too.
Okay.
Yeah, the
So,
little mohawk on it.
Stop by,
It's cute.
please, or call Amanda. Poor Amanda.
Okay.
Free COVID tests are available in the lobby downstairs.
Yay.
They're going well. and I took some of the bags that we had, and I put a box of 50 masks and 4 tests in them, and I hung them on a coat rack in the hallway.
I saw that.
3 of them left today already. So, we don't get that many people on the 3rd floor. The one downstairs, they're going fast, because they're gonna expire before we could.
Also, back to Earth Day, if we can make mention too, whenever we do it, that they can pick up their bags early if they'd like at the Board of Health office, because that works very well. People like to come in, and a lot of people will pick up prior to, which is
Yep.
very beneficial.
Do you have a plan on the areas or a map of areas that you do, or do we need to come up with that?
The majority of the people who have been doing it do the same areas every year.
Okay.
And usually, if somebody asks, Schofield Ave, Pier Pond, but usually Amanda will take, if somebody comes and picks up bags or something, a lot of times she'll say, do you know where you're cleaning up? Just to be sure that we have an idea of what's going on. Because we have to submit that back anyways for the last Green Valley. So.
We have a flyer, correct?
We have not created one yet for this
No.
year.
I'm thinking, last year, I don't know, I think just the date kind of popped up on us, so, and we didn't have as many, businesses that came out to help with teams. Remember, we had Mopfrey came?
Yep.
So I was thinking if, and I think Gentex came one year, but they didn't come to, the transfer, the town dump, whatever, I'm sorry,
Right.
they just did their own thing. So I'm wondering if we could send out, some flyers to those, like Gentex would be another one. Well, we found when COVID came and the world kind of shut down, we still did Earth Day. And because I was the nurse at Mason Road, we did a contest with the families to see how to keep Dudley clean. And the kids went out and they did a little video of where they cleaned, and then
We entered their names.
we emptied their names, we spun the wheel, and the kids were so excited.
We always
Not-
try to have a couple prizes.
Yeah, so not that we
Everybody
are gonna
comes.
spin the wheel again, but we're thinking if we could get some more businesses involved to help
Right.
as a team.
Jen would do good in the dunk tank.
Oh.
Absolutely. I'd be all for that.
It's usually cold in April, Pat, we might wanna put you in it, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people coming to line up, huh? But I'm bummed.
The only
We
thing
love you,
Maybe
Pat.
meatball.
They would be
Meatballs.
throwing meatballs.
The only thing we have to do before we publicize is get permission.
Yeah,
That's all. But then as soon as we get permission,
we can send those flyers out, all right.
catch up with Amanda. I'm sure she'll help us.
So one item that didn't make it to the agenda but came up in the last 24 hours is we started looking into revolving accounts for the Board of Health. And it turns out that we have a tobacco control revolver that has, how much in it, Amanda?
Just over 20,000.
Just over $20,000. So I would like to put an article forward for town meeting to transfer $10,000 from the tobacco control to the training revolver. We have a training revolver. It has $500 in it. Or
$800.
$250. It wasn't much.
No, I think like 170 something.
It wasn't much,
No.
yeah. And we would use that for the MIHA convention. So I've been to 2 MIHA conventions, Mass Environmental Health Officers Association. Very informative, very good networking thing for members of boards of health. Very good training programs throughout the day. It is for 3 days. Most people go for 2 days of it, and maybe have lunch the 3rd day and take off. It costs $800 per person if you're in the Board of Health.
Do you know the date?
It hasn't been announced yet.
Oh, okay,
But it's in the fall.
it's in the fall?
It's in the fall.
Oh.
It's a ways off. I didn't find the MHOA ones to be all that informative, and they're packed. They had over 1,000 people for the one this year, and actually had to, turn people away. But it's in Plymouth, is where they have the MIHA convention. It's at a hotel. Some people stay over after the first night and go home the second day. Well worthwhile.
So you don't have to stay all 3 nights in order to get
You don't have
the
to stay
certificate
anything.
at the end?
There's no certificate.
Oh,
You
they do this, huh?
you have your thing scanned for the continuing education units.
Mm-hmm,
But you're not involved in continuing education units,
Yeah.
and any of that. But speaking of that, you asked me about the FIT, the PHIT stuff.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
that worth going to? So, that program has, I want to say, has 22 training courses to it. And you have 6 months to complete the 22 training courses. It's pretty basic stuff. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to have a uniform scenario where all health agents and boards of health are trained in the same things and treat things in the same manner and all of that. I've done 11 of them. In fact, I did 11 of them on New Year's Day. They're pretty simple, and that's why I think you'd be wasting your time to get involved in that stuff. I don't know how untrained they think the health agents are out in the Commonwealth, but some of this was laughable.
No,
Yeah.
all right.
It's very, very basic stuff. And again, it's grant driven and they have to do things for their grants, so.
Excellent. Do we have anything else?
No, we did enough tonight.
You sure?
I just have one quick question.
Oh, of
Just
course.
a follow-up.
Of course you
No,
do.
sorry. Have we gone back to Yummies?
No.
Okay, just was curious.
Yep, so, like I did for Dudley, I'd like to give them extra time to get
Yeah.
comfortable and just see if they go back to that.
Right.
And I don't wanna seem like, I mean, I hope I go back and it looks as good as it did the day they reopened. And I don't want it to seem like we're in there trying to get them,
Right.
because we're not. We're not trying to get anybody. Just want it to be right.
Mhm.
Want to move on. Because we don't get paid for going back 3 and 4 times inspecting restaurants, and that's the other part of that. There will be, when we change this requirements for serve-safe managers and all of that, there'll be a $100 inspection for a violation. If you didn't clear it then, there's gonna be another 100 to go back the next time. And every time you go back, it's gonna cost them $100 until they pass that test. Because, again, why should the taxpayers pay for their violations and for us to go out and do that work?
I'm all about that. I don't want to put
Yeah.
anything on the taxpayers. I think it's
I was
great
a-
that we're,
I was a finance committee member for 3 years, and I believe in not only getting value for the tax dollar, but departments should try and find efficiencies every year. You don't necessarily need to reduce your budget, but if you can tell me you found a 10% efficiency, that's an accomplishment for the department. And adding that efficiency to restaurant inspections and housing inspections makes a big deal at the end of the year.
Agreed.
may I add one more thing?
Oh,
If
of
anybody
course.
watching wants to become involved in Earth Day, has any ideas or anything,
Yes.
please contact Amanda, poor Amanda again. But Amanda loves all of the phone calls and everything. But I mean, reach out to us because we're willing to try anything, we're willing to do anything. You know, it's your community too. We love input and Dudley will be there.
I know
Oh,
you
he
know this,
better
but
be.
Amanda does a great job.
I know that.
She
She,
does.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
yes,
you. do.
thank you for
She
everything.
has a very good handle on what she's been extremely helpful for me.
That's good.
It's been good.
We are very fortunate to have her.
You are.
Thank you.
Do you want me to now?
You all set?
I'm all set. I'm sorry.
All right, let's go.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion. I can't even say it now. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned, 7:34.